Chesnaught gonna fire off the super out of the incoming Alolan Ninetales, and it is Typhlosion time. Typhlosion hits the field of play, the opponent pivots out into Charger Bug, ABA weak, the opponent throws on alignment, and this game is over. Welcome back to the channel. Have you ever sat there thinking, what the heck do I run in the Go Battle League? For me personally, I normally showcase as many buffed Pokemon or newly released Shadow Pokemon as I physically can. By this point in the season, I've essentially showcased every Pokemon that falls into either of them two categories. For the last 4 to 6 seasons, when I've reached that point, I'll essentially play no battles whatsoever, usually taking up to 2 weeks off without playing a single battle whatsoever. That's probably why I'm pretty washed up and play suboptimally a lot of the time, because I really don't play this game anywhere near as much as I used to. However, we're going to try and keep playing, so I thought if I don't know what to run, there's only one answer to that. It is Shadow Typhlosion. Shadow Typhlosion is that guy, and I know I'm always going to have a hell of a lot of fun running it. If you're a returning subscriber, and you look to the left, you'll know exactly where this team's from. If you're new around here, this team is from the one and only nobonfireahead. My good friend and my former factions teammate. He hit legend with this team way back in season 17. And ever since then, regardless of any meta shakeup, I've always used this team, and it is without a doubt my favourite Go Battle League team of all time. With all that being said, without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, we are not off to the best start, as my good old friend Chester stares down Galarian Weezing. It's a big fat no thank you for me. I say Drapion, go quickly, and Drapion is actually unanswered as out comes Gator. The only time this is a decent matchup for Gator is an even energy, but I obviously switched out first, the opponent behind an energy, and this is a matchup that Drapion can always flip, or at least obtain shield advantage here in the mid-game matchup. I fire off the Aquatail removes them from the field of play, and holy smokes, I thought I was the only mad lad running Chester, but the opponent also has Chesnaught. I'm actually going to give a huge shout out to this opponent. I'm actually quite inspired by this team. I might try and run it myself with the Shadow Galarian Weezing and the Shadow Gator. Where else are you going to see the Chesnaught mirror? This thing is ranked like 300 on PvP. It is hella spicy nowadays. The opponent fires off the superpower, pivot back out into Weezing. We fire off the Frenzy Plant, doesn't look all that resisted, and here comes Typhlosion. The main reason I personally would opt for the Shadow Galarian Weezing, as if they were Shadow, I'd be obliged to shield that up. As of the regular, Typhlosion might be glassy, but can survive any one move and never ever in danger of getting Fairy Wind farmed down afterwards. I've still got 2 shields, and I guess now is a good idea to start investing at least one. The opponent fire off the Sludge, pivot into Chesnaught, the Incinerate registers, and that is going to be the final nail in this opponent's coffin. They fire off the Frenzy Plant, we Vine Whip farm them down, Vine Whip farm down Galarian Weezing, and take that game. Oh boy, in the next battle, we see yet another absolutely atrocious lead. However, once again, for the second consecutive battle, the Drapion save switch is unanswered. I've been posting content all the way since season 8. Back in them days, no one used Drapion whatsoever, and I used to punish team after team as no one was prepared for it. It then rose in popularity, of course. When it was cool, I didn't really use it. A lot of people were prepared for it. Now it's been nerfed slightly as Crunch has only a 10% chance of a debuff. Once again, it's turned into the realms of spice, and again, it is core breaking team after team. Speaking of Crunch debuffs, that's a 1 in 10 chance, which we're able to get. If I was actually opting for Thunder Punch, I'd consider shielding Chesnaught, but as I haven't got it, I'm completely walled by Talonflames. It's going to be Typhlosion versus the world. Typhlosion with that shield advantage. Going to be looking to 1v2. Back out comes Talonflame. We fire off the Thunder Punch. Of course, at this point, Typhlosion will be shielding everything, and we've got to be mindful the opponent is going to look to make a catch. Another thing we need to be mindful of, the opponent did throw 1 Incinerate before pivoting out, so they're trying to confuse my count, overfarmed by 1 each time. Now the opponent's completely energized, they're going to be 2 off a move, that's 1. I pause, see the Incinerate, throw the Thunder Punch once again, we're going to look to pause, the opponent pivots out into the Penguin. It felt like I paused forever, so this is a huge throw on my part. Yes, the game didn't visually update, but all I had to do there was 1 and throw the Thunder Punch, leaving 1 off the next Thunder Punch. I could 1 and throw against Talonflame, win charge attack priority, and win the game. Unfortunately, in the heat of the battle, the execution wasn't quite there. GG's to that opponent. As they were still 1 off as well, I could have just thrown 1 Incinerate, Thunder Punched. If they would have caught on the Penguin, it would have made little to no difference. Of course, I'd still be 1 off and I'd still win the game. Heading into the next battle, we see yet another awful lead. And I wonder why Chesnaught is ranked like 300 on PvP. I can't really complain to getting hard countered. It looks like it's just not a particularly good pick. Finally, the Drapion save switch is punished, or at least so you'd think. We're actually able to take back switch, but that might not actually be the best case scenario as we miss out on the Aquatail, unable to force a shield advantage in the mid-game matchup. but Drapion still putting hella work, almost removing 2 Pokemon from the field of play. We simultaneously swap, send out Typhlosion, blink, and you missed it. That was a scissor in the back, not that you saw it for very long. Typhlosion, Incinerate farms down everything, and we take that game. In the next battle, the gauntlet continues with yet another lost lead. Here I could Aqua Tail instantly to get my turn back, but Aqua Tail isn't all that threatening, and I'd rather hold the energy and try and fight for switch in the mid-game matchup. The opponent fire off the Weather Ball, force him chip into action, and then send out Diggersby. In this matchup, you can throw everything you know about type and effectiveness out the window. Despite us being a poison type, but then being a ground type, Drapion more than holds its own. It takes 3 Aqua Tails to knock out. We land the second one on the charge attack priority, winning CMP. The opponent's now completely energy dry, so rather than fight for switch, what I'm actually going to do is reverse farm this thing down and get a bucket load of energy together. Both the Frenzy Plant and the Super Power are going to be hella threatening to Ninetales if that's what wants to re-enter the arena. I see Ninetales enter the field of play. We fire off the Super Power. Super Power forced the first protection. We pivot into Typhlosion. The opponent pivots out into Charger Bug. They are completely core broken and thrown alignment, and this game is completely over. I invest easiest protection on my GBL career. We fully farm down, leaving doubled up on Blast Burns. The opponent's been a complete baby. Sorry, not sorry, and rage quit the app. Honestly, this is a mobile phone game that involves us tapping our screen. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. It really isn't that deep. If you don't want to play anymore, you could just hit that little button in the top left corner and concede the match. It is what it is. We're going to take the game and move on to the next one. Heading into the next battle. Finally, we win a lead, but the issue for me is when I win a lead, it kind of isn't how the teams function to work. I kind of look to say switch into Drapion, gain an advantage, and sweep with Typhlosion. The opponent sends out Fearer. They force in the Drill Run. Trader, that was hella unnecessary. I'm a bloody Shadow Typhlosion. Drill Peck would have more than got the job done. The opponent didn't throw at the best timing, giving me like 3 free turns. With that in mind, I farm up, throw back to back, win the 1 shield, and we manage to maintain alignment. Here in the mid-game matchup, back out comes Gastrodon. We're going to fire off the Thunder Punch, which is kind of neither here nor there, as of course a Frenzy Plant will be an easy one-hit KO. The opponent then sends out Togekiss, and here comes Drapion. Despite maintaining alignment, this is going to be quite a dicey endgame. Aura Spear does a lot, but is survivable. The opponent still with a shield to hide behind. We fire off the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail goes unshielded, and here I'm committing to fast moves. The opponent also committing to fast moves. A fully pecked farm me down. The question now becomes, can they reach double Psy Shot, or can Chesnaught Vine Whip farm down a flyer? Togekiss fires off the first Psy Shot. Unable to reach another move, Chesnaught gets that farm down, and Gastrodon re-enters the arena. Body Slam has been buffed this season, but Chesnaught's like, no, Gastrodon, that simply isn't going to cut it. 1 Vine Whip and the Super Power. Super Power forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Yes, we're debuffed, but have no doubt Super Power is going to be all she wrote. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Guzzlord in the lead position, a very awkward Pokemon for the entire team, if I'm being honest. Chesnaught has a fighting typing, but effectively is operating as a grass type attacker. 7 Vine Whips and the Super Power. Super Power goes shield, we won, and look to catch onto Drapion and just sponge the energy, saving Chesnaught to potentially Super Power this Guzzlord to the face at some point later down the line. Interesting, this Guzzlord opting to stay in and dump yet further energy, potentially with no answer for Drapion. They actually send out a Azumarill, actually pretty good into Drapion. I feel like this video is essentially me telling you everything you learn about typing effectiveness, ignore it. However, this is actually quite a nice position for me to be in. We've got shield advantage, like on 1 shield, farm up to 100 energy. I'm actually going to go past 100 here, just because I want to throw at good time in 7 Vine Whips and the Frenzy Plant. And Frenzy Plant is easily going to remove Azumarill from the field of play. Guzzlord dumped this energy, so we can 4 Vine Whips and the Super Power. The opponent throws after 3. This is only a Brutal Swing, which of course is resisted. We tank the Brutal Swing, 1 Vine Whip and the Super Power, and at this point we are doubled up. Does the opponent respect the damage? Bang! There it is. We pivot into Typhlosion. Yet another sizzle gets cooked to an absolute crisp, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle. See Kanto Marowak in the lead position. As I mentioned previously, Chesnaught is ranked like 300, so quite a spicy pick. However, it is the absolute perfect Pokemon for this backline. Chesnaught has got one singular job on the team. It is the hard punish, the ground types, as well as bulky normal types, stuff like Ferret and Dunsparce, and you couldn't find a Pokemon in the Great League that's eligible that does that better than Chesnaught. In the event of a lost lead, we always say switching to Drapion, looking to bait out any potential ground types. Of course, with access to Aqua Tail, Drapion can fight back in their matchups. If you manage to bait out the ground type, you can send Chesnaught back into the arena, remove it from the field of play, hopefully setting up Typhlosion. A very clear path to victory, cooking everything to a crisp. Heading into the next battle. You see a battle of fighting types. If you see Shadow Prime up in the lead, it's actually quite dicey as the opponent goes straight for a close combat. You get one hit KO, but as of the regular, this opponent still forces in the close combat. We're able to tank the damage and we simultaneously swap, and it very much works out in my favour as Drapion stares down Dusclops. This mad lad is running Poltergeist, which you absolutely love to see. That is resisted, but did a majority of my HP, but Drapion undeterred, fires off the crunch, we then farm up, throw the Aqua Tail on the charge attack priority, once again winning CMP and forcing the first Protect Shield of the game. Here you're going to see me do some team reading. As I've got shield advantage, I'm happy to take that. I recognise the opponent's very unlikely to have a Mud Slapper in the back. You can't really run a fighting type in the lead with a Mud Slapper in the back because you're ABA weak to common flying type. With that in mind, we send out Typhlosion, get the energy lead, Primeape re-enters the arena, Thunder Punch removes them from the field of play, out comes Drifblim and Typhlosion looking primed to sweep. We fire off the Thunder Punch forces the opponent's first Protect Shield. We've also got a move banked on Chesnaught, not that we're going to need it. The opponent unable to Astonish farm me down. I'm going to shoot up the Icy Wind, undertap the Thunder Punch, even at -1 and non-stab. High Balloon, Buy Balloon, remove yourself from my screen, and we take that game. Zach, if you're watching, buddy, I know you'd be a big fan of that Poltergeist in the mid-game matchup. In the next battle, this is definitely a matchup I play really poorly, while Chesnaught fully walls the charge moves, unless on the off chance on X-Scissor or Ironhead, which I highly doubt. I should pivot out into Drapion that would also wall the moveset. And the reason for that is if you're going to run something double weak to fire in the lead, you potentially got a ground type in the back, and I've completely lost my ground type counter. If I was to instantly go Drapion, they do have said ground type, I'd be able to bait it out with Drapion, reverse farm down with Chesnaught, and Chesnaught into Sizzle, a lot better than energy lead, as of course my Vine Whips are double resisted, and we essentially did no damage whatsoever. The opponent saves Sizzle aggressively, send out Furret. Here I should probably shield, to be honest, but we are going to put it all on Typhlosion. If they've got a ground type in the back, it is G to the G. Potentially a water type, still not going to be great for me. They're going to need some very hard check for fire. I see a lot of people comment on YouTube videos saying content creators only show their wins. I think this line of 3 is very, very beatable for this team. So what you need to do is do as I say and not as I do. Would it even be a Jamie Finn video if I'm not going to reverse 2 shield flex? If I would have just pivoted into Drapion, I'd be in a much better position. But like this, the opponent can fully bubble farm me down. They'll actually make a catch back onto Sizzle. Not that matters, as we've got no HP. We're actually going to get resisted. Bullet punch farm down. So moral of the story, do as I say, not as I do, and you probably have more success than me. Heading into the next battle. We see Cradilly in the lead position. Again, I think an adjustment here could be made. What I should do is throw 6 or potentially 7 and throw the Frenzy Plant on CMP. And the reason for that is, after playing this battle out, I know what's in the bag. This is going to be one of It's Axon's fanboys. Someone running the team he posted a couple of days ago with Dusknoir, as well as Corviknight. So the reason I should throw 7 in Frenzy Plant, I won't debuff myself, and I can essentially stay in, as this is the best matchup for Chesnaught. It's not too bad into Dusknoir, but Cradilly is effectively where Chesnaught wants to be aligned. I thought potentially, even at -1, if they're running the Shadow Dusknoir like It's Axon ran, I thought Blast Burn still going to pick up the 1-hit KO, and I should be home and dry. Out comes Dusknoir, but what you're going to see is, even after 1 Incinerate at -1, a Shadow Dusknoir able to withstand the damage, we pivot back out into Chesnaught, and there is Corviknight, and I've made this one very, very dicey endgame. We'll land the superpower before the opponent reach that double super effective air cut, and here the opponent doesn't overfarm, and potentially gives me a win con. The win con for me is going to be to fully Incinerate farm down this Corviknight, and leave with enough health to survive 1 Astonish. Despite Dusknoir being on fractional HP, the Astonish registers before the Incinerate, and I felt super salty after losing that, as I didn't play particularly well. One win con I did have, as I could have thrown the Thunder Punch. If the opponent got 1 turn bring in, which still does occur sometimes, I would have won the game, but I don't want to win like that, so I take my loss like a man. In the next battle, we see Primeape in the lead position. This opponent goes for the Rage Fist. We fire off the superpower, force the protection. I attempt to catch the Rage Fist, and my catch attempt is unsuccessful. I could have thrown the Aqua Tail, losing CMP, so the opponent close combated, we would have actually been able to knock him out. They actually Rage Fist bait me. I still could have thrown the Aqua Tail, to be honest, as Primeape's hella glassy, and it would have still done a lot. However, again, I hold the energy, wanting to fight for switch advantage in the mid-game matchup, and that proves to be a good decision, as out comes Furret, which of course is by no means a good response. We tank the Swift, overfarm, fire off the crunch, moves Furret from the field of play, and switch advantage is mine. Out comes Azumarill going to be greeted with the crunch. Crunch able to land, not doing much damage. The opponent gives up switch, and that more than works for me. We send out Typhlosion. Typhlosion can go for the one shield. Full Incinerate farm down, and we are looking off to the races. When Azumarill re-enters the arena, 5 turn into 3 turn. Ideally, you only want to throw one quick move. That's 5 turns into 6. Thus, being optimal timing, only giving the opponent 1 free turn. Ice Beam Trainer, not going to cut it. We're going to bank the Thunder Punch for the end game. Pivot into Chesnaught, race to the Frenzy Plant, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. It's nice to bounce back, especially after a couple of frustrating losses that I definitely think were user error more than the team's fault. In the next battle, we see Chesnaught in the lead position. We're going to stay in. The opponent throws on alignment. Give me a free Vine Whip. Shadow Punch is going to hurt, but is survival. I'm then going to throw one Vine Whip and the Frenzy Plant. Again, I potentially let myself get too low, but Chesnaught still going to put in work if they've got any potential ground type in the back. To be honest, the opponent kind of caught me off guard there, throwing on alignment. I guess my ELO's to blame. We're at around 2500, which isn't really the worst, to be honest. So most people, how they'll play the opening matchup, they'll look for optimal timing. So I can throw 7 Vine Whips and the Frenzy Plant, and then throw 1 Vine Whip and attempt to catch on the Drapion. However, speaking of Drapion, this team is so weak to Drapion. Who sends out the Dene? Behind on energy and down on shields. Questions need to be answered. The opponent then sends out Chesnaught into my loaded Drapion. Trainer, what is going on here? Speaking of which, Trainer, if this is a Shadow Punch, you, sir, are going to be sad. Shadow Punch simply doesn't cut it. We pause, ensure Chesnaught remains on my screen. Crunch removes them from the field of play. We pivot into Typhlosion. APA goes. I don't even know what to say at this point. The opponent kind of gets the last laugh, firing off an Ice Punch that, of course, would be resisted. We shield regardless, 1 Incinerate and the Blast Burn, cook Chesnaught to a crisp, and take a very strange victory. Heading into the next battle, we see Cradilly in the lead position. So I played the last one, suboptimally. So here, you're going to see me make the adjustment. I'm doing what I told you should have done in the last one. We're going to throw the Frenzy Plant on CMP, winning CMP. Now we're not debuffed. This Rock Tomb isn't going to do much of anything. We're then going to farm up. Attempt to throw the superpower. The opponent thankfully catch onto Corviknight as opposed to Chesnaught if there is their line of 3. Of course, we've got the alignment once, so I send out Typhlosion. I waste no time. I'm just going to fire off this Thunder Punch before the opponent potentially payback me to the face. Thunder Punch removes them from the field of play. And it's actually Azumarill, not Chesnaught. Here I make an error. I attempt to throw on CMP, anticipate the opponent spamming that Ice Beam. They do not, and all I actually do is give them a free bubble, and that might be a decision I live to regret. As I snuck the bubble, I only reach 1 move. Despite my failed CMP, we've still got a battle to try and win. Let's see if I can manage to pull it off. We send out Chesnaught, look to force the energy, and Drapion with 2 shields needs to 1v2. The issue I'm going to have is Cradilly is going to re-enter the arena, debuff me, and with no remaining Pokemon other than this Drapion, I'm never ever able to reset that debuff. I decided to tank the Ice Beam despite having 2 shields, recognising a Stab Rock Tomb would do more. We fire off the Crunch, force the Protect Shield, we fire off the next Crunch before we get debuffed once again. Drapion lands the Crunch, which isn't enough to get the job done, and we need to be mindful of the opponent looking to sack, or catch I should say, back onto Azumarill. Does the opponent go for the catch? Yes, they do. Drapion rapidly running out of HP, farms up to the double Crunch, but -2 is Crunch enough to knock out. No, it's not. We're able to poison thing, farm down before the bubble registers. A very, very close endgame, but Drapion does not let me down. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Furret in the lead position. The opponent says no thank you, save switch into Fearow, and here comes Typhlosion. This opponent opt to go straight Drill Peck, which still commands a Protect Shield. Drill Peck, a very hard hitting move, and Fearow hits like a truck. Speaking of hitting like a truck, look at this Incinerate damage. It is absolutely sickening. Fearow getting melted. I fired off 1 Incinerate and the Thunder Punch for optimal fast move time, and here I can just double shield and fully Incinerate farm down afterwards. Worst case scenario, it's like Gastron on the back or something. It would wall the energy, but Blast Burn will still do around half. Out comes Furret, Blast Burn, forced the final Protect Shield. I attempt to bank the Blast Burn, save it for the end game, but unfortunately get Sucker Punch farm down afterwards. I send out Chesnaught, the opponent reveals Florges in the back. Thankfully, I switch quick enough that we're going to get off 2 Aqua Tails at -1, as opposed to them winning CMP. Debuff me again before the second Aqua Tail lands. This Florges is still going to be somewhat of an issue for me, depending on their second move, I guess. The opponent overfarms by 1, so they're going to be 4 off a charge move. going to be Chesnaught versus the Wild. The opponent instantly pivot back out into Furret, go straight for the body slam. Body slam, not going to do too much. And I think, to be honest, I'm just going to go straight for the superpower. And I believe that 4 Vine Whips knock out. Let's see if Theory turns into execution. Back out comes Florges. We're able to Vine Whip farm down as they reach the chilling water and take that game. Heading into the next battle. What is this on my screen? Whimsicott, are you bloody serious? The opponent save switches into Dunsparce. If I had £1 for every time and for an awful time against rollout, ironically, I wouldn't be getting into the shower and about to head to night shift. What is with that rollout animation? I know a lot of people struggle. It looks like it's like a turn late or something. Here I intentionally Aqua Tail, knowing Aqua Tail isn't lethal. So I've got a plan. The plan is throw the next Aqua Tail on CMP. The opponent's either going to give their shield back or I get a Drapion with residual energy and quite a lot of health rolling forward. The opponent opts out the 1 shield. That works for me. Again, we reverse farm down with Chesnaught. Frenzy Plant, one of the hardest hitting moves in the game, and Whimsicott is quite glassy. Potentially we can just Frenzy Plant it later on. We are spamming the switch into Typhlosion. The opponent pivots into Empoleon. They're down a turn, and this is probably G to the G, to be honest, or at least this Penguin's going to be straight in and straight out. We're just going to match Protect Shield 1 and throw the next Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch will be a very easy 1-hit KO. To be honest, the Incinerators have pretty much deleted this thing. The question now becomes, is a Moonblast going to be enough to move Typhlosion from the field of play? The opponent overfarm as much as they physically can. Moment of truth. Does Moonblast knock out? Hurricane? Huh? I did not see that one coming. A very nice nuke for this one. Still going to end in victory as Frenzy Plant is going to be all she wrote. GG's to that opponent. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's showcase. Showcasing my favourite team from the one and only nobonfireahead, someone who I personally think is one of the best battlers in the world. This meta certainly isn't the correct meta for this team. However, you can see with a strategy and execution of how to run an ABB team, despite me losing numerous leads, we was able to pull off many big fat dubs, gaining around 100 elo on the day. To be honest, it should have been even more, as a lot of my losses were user error, and I did talk through what you should have done as opposed to what I did. So with all that being said, if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, a link to a battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.